Hello there, kia ora. Remember back in March that concern that NZME's stable of news platforms would start pushing more of the narratives in their editorials and content of major news shareholder Jim Grennan? Well, Grennan was the man behind funding Chantal Baker through his centrist website, well, until recently anyway. At the time, there was concerns out of the NZME newsrooms that the takeover would change their outcomes when it came to the cornerstones of journalism: impartiality, independence, and transparency. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the media outlet that platforms Mike Hosking, Heather Duplessis, Allen, Ryan Bridge, and Kerry Woodham was particularly impartial to begin with, but the last 24 hours has shown a major effort on these outlets' plans to set a conversational agenda. In media theory, we actually call this agenda setting. I mean, it's what it says on the tin. It's where media sets the agenda of how the public should perceive a topic according to the media. They do this with stances that they take, the language that they use, the number of times that they push specific content to help form a specific viewpoint, as well as the people that they platform. And over the last 24 hours, it seems that they've pushed ACT and New Zealand First talking points around the second COVID inquiry, an inquiry set up to placate the same people who showed up at the Parliament occupation saying politicians needed to be hanged. But also, why won't they come and talk to us? There's a number of names attached to the inquiry, like former Prime Ministers Dame Jacinda Ardern and Chris Hipkins, Labour Health spokesperson Dr. Aisha Varel, and former Finance Minister Grant Robertson. And they've answered all the questions given to them. They've sat through the interviews and given the inquiry what they needed, according to the head of the inquiry. But they won't be fronting to a public repeat of the questions that they've already answered because, well, it's performative. It runs the risk of being taken out of context, misappropriated, and increasing the risk to safety of the people involved. Remember, the groups that were braying for this public performance also backed people like Graham Phillip, the one person convicted of sabotage for trying to bring down the power grid, or, sovereign citizen Richard Savelle, who kept sending death threats, and some of the most dangerous identity-driven extremists that the country has. And the NZME stable of news outlets, especially News Talk ZB, have taken those talking points and aimed them very specifically as rage bait to rile up these groups and, run with them like it's diarrhea at a music festival. On their two main channels, they've now posted 9 times in 24 hours about the decision. Oh, just a little quick side note for me to add in here. In the time that it took for me to write the script today and record the video and stick it into the editing program, News Talk ZB added a further 2 articles on social media around this particular topic. It's like they're obsessed. It's like they're trying to make Fetch happen. Anyway, back to the story. And whether that's opinion like Mike's Minute or Ryan Bridges' column, or the 7 other news stories that they've pushed, every single one is framed to vilify those that were involved and create a specific perspective for the public to digest their information from, which is what media agenda setting in action looks like. Add into that the language that they're using to frame it is really specifically picked. Hipkins defends, snubbing the inquiry, refuse to appear. Compare that with the headline from One News, where it's declined, not snubbed or refused, or this headline from the Post. They cooperated already. The framing from NZME is very clearly aimed to create a sense of anger at the decision made not to pursue a public spectacle. It's framing that our interchangeable deputy prime ministers have been using to try and woo the small percentage of voters that they keep stealing from each other. The framing being celebrated by the worst people in New Zealand, like the Tamakis and known spreaders of disinformation, like Reality Check Radio. This is what media experts call agenda setting in action, which was the fear of those journalists that NZME warned us about when this happened earlier in the year. Hey, thanks for checking out today's video. Make sure you like, share, subscribe so you get more updates as we go along and deal with these guys for the rest of the year.